Welcome to Questions from the Closet. I'm Ben Shalati.
And I'm Charlie Bird. Each episode, we discuss a question we commonly get asked as LGBTQ plus Latter-day Saints.
We're not trying to answer this question or come to a consensus, but simply sharing our perspectives. Today's question is, how do I respond to hurtful comments?
Ben and I are not terribly diverse, and we share many opinions and life experiences. For example, we both have recessive eye colors.
However, there are some pretty big differences. For example, my eyes are blue and Charlie's are green.
And we just figured that out today. We've actually never talked about it before.
Well, I knew your eyes were green and that mine were blue.
Yeah, but we never made the connection.
Yeah, so what?
We're both recessive.
Charlie, what is a recessive eye color?
I have no idea. I just remember doing Punnett squares in 10th grade biology.
Great.
And it's the lowercase number.
If only we had someone here who could explain them to us.
Oh no, maybe we're setting this up. Maybe we're not. We like to provide a variety of voices and perspectives, and today we're happy to be joined by Jessica Abele.
Hello.
Welcome, our resident biologist.
You're the expert in biology in the room.
I suppose out of the people in the room, I've probably taken a handful more biology classes.
I haven't taken a biology class since 2006, so biology's probably changed since then.
Oh, has your biology changed?
Oh, definitely.
We're like, what are you studying? She said biology, and I was like, so tell us about the eye colors, because I'm still confused.
Well, okay, so eye color is not as simple as a Punnett square with upper and lowercase letters.
I'm going to call Mrs. Butler and give her a piece of my mind.
There's a lot of genes that control it.
Oh, okay.
And you can't really predict eye color based on what the parent's eye color is.
Interesting. Well, in my family, we have a variety of eye colors.
Is it similar to hair?
Yeah, you can think about it like that.
So yeah, because my sister has blonde kids, but she has brown hair and so does her husband.
Interesting.
And we're like, I don't get this.
Tell us how that works, Jessica. I'm just kidding.
Tell me why.
I mean, so part of it is you have a certain amount of maybe you call them dark hair alleles or dark hair genes, and you have a certain amount of light hair genes. And so even if you have dark hair, you'll still probably have a few light hair genes. And so if you pass on your light hair, your 3 or 5 light hair ones, and your husband also does, then even if you're both dark haired, you could have a blonde child.
Well, as long as the mitochondria is still the powerhouse of the cell, that's all I ever really need to know.
That's all we need to know. Anyway, Jessica, you're not a biologist, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm working on becoming a biologist. I'm so at BYU right now, and I'm studying biology education and minoring in chemistry education. So I'll be able to be a high school biology or chemistry teacher.
Cool.
Awesome.
Which one I'm assuming you prefer biology.
I do, and you have to take the chem classes to get biology, so the minor just kind of
And
happens.
yeah. Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. And what are some fun things you're involved in at BYU?
I am in the marching band.
Oh my gosh.
I play the piccolo.
Which is everyone's favorite instrument.
It's so cute and little,
It's like a
but
little
powerful.
flute. It's very loud. Actually, so in marching band is the first time I saw Charlie, because I always set the podium up on the 50-yard line.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you were looking familiar and I couldn't figure it out. That makes sense.
And I'm one of the smaller people in the band, and I was needed help getting it set up because it's really big.
Yeah.
So
I helped you.
No, you didn't. you
I was
just
I
stood
don't
there.
remember that.
No, it was not you. It was another piccolo player.
Yeah, I was always at the 50-yard line for cheer. And, one time one of the color guard girls hit one of the cheer guys in the head with her flag. It was so exciting.
He got in the blood circle.
He did. And it actually, it knocked him pretty good.
Marching band accidents are serious.
Oh, okay.
They are. The instruments can get hurt.
Have you ever had a marching band accident yourself?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
So it was in high school.
Okay.
And we were on the field, and it's rainy and muddy because I'm from Everett, and
Everett, Washington, where
Everett,
I'm from.
Washington.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. So football fields are always muddy, and I was going backwards, and it was a competition. So there's judges down on the field watching us, and the judge didn't see me coming, and so as I was going backwards kind of fast, he tripped me, and so I skidded. It was turf, not grass. I skidded on the turf, and it kind of ripped through my marching pants.
Oh no.
And I tried catching myself with
All
my hand
that polyester.
had all the polyester.
Did you lose points for that?
I don't know.
I don't
if
feel
we
like you
did.
should.
Yeah, if we didn't. My flute got bent.
It was sabotage.
Oh my gosh.
And my
This
ankle.
was a Tanya Harding moment. I bet somebody paid that guy to stand there.
Maybe he wouldn't respond to our emails when we're like, hey, we need to go to the doctor and our instrument needs help. And the judge wouldn't respond. But
Ooh, he ghosted.
we know he knew that happened because on his recording, you can hear him talking about how we're marching. And you just hear this scuffling noise. And he's like, oops, sorry, flute.
And the scuffler was you.
I was the scuffle.
Oh my gosh. So the flute and the piccolo are really similar?
They are, so they're just in different octaves. So they're going to be the
So
same
it's the
thing.
same instrument, but
You have to do you have to have like
adjust.
more air control for the piccolo.
okay, I see you.
It's like switching between a trumpet and a tuba. Please don't hurt me, bass players.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Now that you put it that way.
Yeah, I know that helps everyone, right?
All right. Well, marching band is interesting. So is teaching biology. But there's one more thing you do at BYU that I think is so cool. You're the evolution thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm in a research group at BYU, and we do evolution, religion, reconciliation research. So we look at how we can teach evolution in a way that helps religious students understand that it's not at odds with what they believe, that they are compatible. And yeah, we did a conference last October where we had biology professors and like local pastors from other colleges. Some of them were religious colleges, some of them weren't. We did this conference with them and talked about how we could all be friends and get along.
That's cool.
I love that.
You're so
fun.
impressive.
She's
a
from Everett,
triple
Washington.
threat.
It is the Washington.
So how do you identify?
I am bisexual.
Cool. When did you come out? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't really think of like an actual coming out experience. It was more like I knew in high school that I was like attracted to like both guys and girls. I don't know if we wanted to talk more about that later and how that influenced my opinion of LGBTQ community, but basically I kind of knew that's how I was in high school. And I talked about it a bit more on my mission with companions. I ended up like teaching people who were LGBTQ on my mission, and like I would continue teaching them even when I moved out of areas.
Yeah. Where'd you serve?
I served the first part of my mission in Sapporo, Japan, and
Cool.
finished it up in Arcadia, California.
Was it COVID?
It was COVID.
Wow, thanks COVID.
I know.
From Japan to Arcadia.
Well, but it's because I was in Arcadia that I was able to meet a guy who identified as gay, and we were able to talk a lot about it. And like talking to him, I started, but wasn't really, I don't know, I started understanding how personal people's identities are, even though mine wasn't really to me at that point. And I don't know, so he knew that I was bisexual, and like my companion did. And when I got home from my mission, I was at a meeting that Ben's brother was at, and he mentioned that Ben would be coming to speak at like a fireside that summer, and he said, and he does a podcast. And I was like, I drive a lot for work and I could listen to something. So like I started listening to the podcast, and I thought it was super cool. And I don't know, I had like,
We think it's super cool too.
I had like this gay overload in like a good way. And I was like, wow, I need to go get like bi pride stuff. And like, actually this is amazing. And that was when my sister was able to come out to me as lesbian. And I don't know,
Wow.
So you felt prepared for
I
that
felt prepared,
experience.
So today we're talking about hurtful comments, and so I'm assuming someone said something really horrible to you, and Ben invited you on the podcast because of it. Safe assumption?
I mean, it has happened, but I would say, I don't know, when it comes to hurtful comments, I tend to just assume that it's because a person doesn't really understand,
Okay.
because that's where I was at. So, like I said, in high school, I recognized that I was attracted to like guys and girls, and I kind of assumed everyone was like that. Like, I assumed that everyone was like, could be attracted to anyone.
Like
and it was like,
equally as
Maybe
like
not.
bisexual as you are?
maybe not like to the same extent, because I don't really know still if I like guys more or girls more, just because I've been trained in some ways. Like I can look forward to, I don't know, I've been trained to like guys. You know, that's what's more normal in my family. And so I just assumed that everyone kind of was like that. And so people who like, at the time I would have used the word chose to like people of the same gender or like pursue those relationships, it's because that's what they wanted, that's what their family was okay with. And so I kind of used me being bi as like, I don't know, I thought everyone was. I would not have said I was bi. I may have said I think I'm sometimes attracted to people who are the same sex as me, but I don't even know if I would have defined it. Like, it just wasn't a thing.
So because of your experience, you discounted different experiences.
Yeah, that is really what happened. And
Well, that makes sense, because you're like, well, I like boys and I like girls, and so I'm making the choice to pursue like a heterosexual relationship, and so should everybody else if they are righteous. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, that was a lot of what I thought. And I really think that started changing on my mission when I was teaching this one friend that we were teaching. And I I don't know. I assumed that it'd be so easy because not so easy, but that it'd be like overcomeable. Like, you know, in California, we'd help people with like drug addictions, you know, get over those. And even if it wasn't like perfect, like they'd be able to be baptized. And I just assumed that this gay guy that we were teaching, that he'd be able to do the same thing, that if we just kept reminding him of the blessings that were in store, if he would choose to be baptized and choose to be a part of this church forever, that even if he couldn't have the marriage he wanted, that God would make a path for him work out. And it was when I was understanding, like, I don't know, it just wasn't vibing with him. Like,
So you were viewing this aspect of who he is as like an impediment to baptism in the same way that like an investigator drinking coffee or something like that would be.
Yeah.
They're called friends now, not investigators.
Yeah, we do call them friends.
Oh.
New friend. When you each week when you like turn in your numbers, you're like, oh, we had this many new friends this week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But the coffee example is actually really pertinent because that's something I would have said to people.
Did he also drink coffee?
No. So, okay, I'm from Washington, right? So around Seattle, Starbucks everywhere. So like everyone in my high school also drank coffee.
Yeah.
And so in high school, when people would ask like, oh, you're a member of the church, like how do you really think that you love members of the LGBTQ plus community? I'd be like, well, it's just like how you drink coffee. Like, we're still friends and I love you a lot, but I'd never like buy you a coffee and I'd never drink coffee with you. So it's the same as that.
And that like feels like it checks out on the surface, right? Like that seems not crazy. Like, I feel like that's totally something I would have said.
Well, yeah, because like it's true that like I'm not going to drink coffee, but like, I mean, at this point I'll go to Starbucks with my friends and get a pink drink, which are really good.
But I guess like the difference being that your orientation is like part of who you are, and coffee is like a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that explanation you gave of coffee, and why would that feel unkind to you now to say that?
I mean, just kind of what Charlie was talking about, that the way that your orientation is just, it's a part of who you are. Like, it makes up your personality. It makes up how you make connections and friendships. And whether or not you like coffee is, well, maybe for some people it's a personality trait, but for most people it isn't.
Yeah, it's like a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
Living the coffee lifestyle.
The coffee lifestyle.
Coffee life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, talking with that guy on my mission was like kind of my first time I actually saw that it was more personal than that, and not just like a trial or something to overcome, like an addiction, or less like a substance addiction. And so that definitely started me on it, but I don't think I was the kindest to him in the way I taught. Like, not that I was like particularly unkind, but I was just continuing to push him to change when it really, really wasn't something he wanted. Like, he wanted to have a family, and I was like, well, that's cool, but didn't you know God could make you happier if you get baptized? Which isn't something I would teach in that same way anymore.
It's interesting to me that you're like, we're talking about hurtful comments, and you're first of all, you're like so nice. I'm just like feeling good, like goodness here, because these things where you're saying these things that you had believed or said to people, and even this person, that your friend that you loved, they weren't hateful, they weren't like attacking, they weren't coming from a place of malice, right?
Yeah.
And yet you're still like looking back on them saying that was a hurtful thing to say. I think that's just really like graceful of you, like to notice that, and so like, even though my intentions weren't good, like
Your intentions were good.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Even though my intentions were good, like how that was received was actually not something I would want to, like, not a position I'd want to put somebody in again.
Yeah. And I'd say more of that realizing came like after my mission, when I started listening to the podcast and started hearing people like share stories that were really personal to them about their life experiences, and just how deep of like those things can hurt. It's like someone, I don't know, when someone points out like something about your personality, it's like, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, so, you know, you're talking about how like, why is this the story that like I started talking about when we're thinking about hurtful comments? So like, knowing that I was trying to come from a place of love, it's just hard for me not to see that in other people when I hear those things now. Like, I know that it took for me like years of change before I was able to see how my comments were hurtful and not like loving or supportive.
Do you think that love without understanding doesn't always connect?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to talk about that, because it's still love, but it's like hitting wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's really important and gracious to realize that a lot of hurtful things come from a place of love and just a lack of understanding, and that people are acting often with the best of intentions, but those intentions can still lead to hurtful comments.
Yeah, there's this example. So I was in a class and we're having a class discussion, and there was this, like, we were kind of just discussing just different scenarios and like how the scenarios made us feel and what our thoughts were. And there was this one that came up that was talking about a mother and a daughter. Maybe the daughter's like in high school, and she came out to her mom, and her mom's reaction was, don't tell your friends about this, keep this, we'll work on this, like, I love you and we'll get through this, like we can talk with Bishop about this, and we can, there's so much that we can do, but like, don't talk to your friends about it and we'll be able to fix it. And the class's reactions to that were, a lot of them were like just instant disgust and like, how could the mom say something like that? And I was just sitting there and I was like, that's like, the mom loves her daughter. You can tell, like, if the mom didn't love her daughter, it'd be like, it wouldn't be like that. The mom's doing what she can or what she thinks would help. She is coming from a place of love, but she just doesn't understand how that love, or she doesn't have the same understanding that her daughter has, maybe the situation. They need to talk more so like the mom can just learn more about her daughter, because I don't know.
So how do you bridge that gap and make sure that the love connects? Like, obviously the answer in this conversation would be understanding, but how do you gain that understanding?
I mean, for me, it took years,
For you personally?
For me personally, yeah. Like, coming from where I was in high school, like, I wouldn't even say on my mission, I was the most understanding person. And for me, that change came from like talking with people, and getting to know people. A person who played a big role in that change is my sister, Samantha. So shortly after, like, I had my, I don't know, just like big coming out, where I was like, I'm so happy that I can, like, I want to support this community. I haven't done my best, and I want to be an ally, and an ally as well as a member in it. I was willing to accept that. And my sister was able to come out to me, and I was like, oh, like, we kind of knew, but she has a girlfriend, and she like let us know. And like, seeing how much Sam's girlfriend meant to her, and like Sam, like, I don't know, I think some people would be worried, like, oh, did she just make that decision lightly? But for me, knowing my sister and knowing that she had like wrestled with this and prayed about it and tried to figure out what to do in her life, and like, I don't know, it was not an easy or quick decision for her, yet like, I know my sister, so I knew that she was acting out of what's best.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to like think about that, like, we might love people wrong. Like, we might love them in the way that works, that doesn't work for them. And that also we might be loved wrong as well. And, a lot of hurtful things happen not from a place of love, but I think if we're looking at like, where's this person coming from? What's their intention? How do they feel about me? I think most of the people we interact with are responding in love, but they might just be loving us wrong. I don't know.
So how do you reconcile that? Because loving wrong feels like not love.
Yeah. But I think,
that's so sad.
and I think that is the sad thing. Like people really are doing their best and yet causing so much pain and heartache.
Yeah.
And I think about the times I've done that too. Like, I've loved people wrong. And of course I don't want to. And as soon as I know better, I'll do better. But it's hard and scary sometimes to know better.
You have to be like so forgiving. Like, you have to like really take on the character of Jesus Christ and like forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Yeah. I remember one experience where I had said something really insensitive. The specifics aren't important. And
was this to me, Ben?
I could tell a Charlie experience, but I'm thinking of an experience with a former colleague of mine. And then they were really upset. I could tell they were upset. And I went and talked to them about it. And I, like, as they like explained to me, like what had happened, I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I am really sorry. And I committed to doing better and being better. Because oftentimes, we just don't know.
Yeah. So up until like right now, I've always been really like bugged / concerned / like overwhelmed by the idea that if you're in like a minority position, it's like I feel like it's often up to me to have like the grace and patience to be able to educate somebody else, and like they're not comfortable with my existence, and I have to like be okay with that, and also like put more effort into correcting things and coming from a place of like just a very like forgiving, open place when I'm the one who's being hurt. Does that make sense? And I've talked to a lot of people that like, I feel this a lot. I know a lot of other people feel that, and it's always kind of bugged me. But like now for the first time, I'm thinking that like maybe that's the biggest blessing of life, because I'm learning how to be more like the Savior. Mm-hmm. Gosh.
Yeah. I think for me, when that comes up, I like when someone says something that's hurtful, like I had, someone really close to me, like a few months ago, like say something that really hurt. And it was so hard to understand why they'd say something like that about me and about my sister. But I just remembered, I thought about like, that's something I would have said though. Like when I was back in high school, or maybe even on my mission, I was, when I was like gung ho, like that's something I would have said. And so I don't know why would I, if they haven't had the same proximity that I've had, like not trying to like put myself on like an altar, on like a pedestal, but
no, I think that's a beautiful point. And in fact, it reminds me of when I came out to my dad. I mean, he had a long history of saying hurtful things that I heard, and it was like really an anxious experience coming out to him, and I didn't really know how he was going to react. And as it was happening, I just had like this very clear thought, and it was like, you've been thinking about this and like learning about this for 24 years, and you're going to give him that long to get to where you're at. And he came around much quicker, like way, way faster than I ever could have imagined. But I think that was really important for me to be like, you know what? I'm going to give my dad 24 years, because that's how long I had to get to this point. And then we're going to keep going from there. And I think there's a power in that, I think, because then you're not looking at other people as enemies.
Yeah.
Okay, so Charlie, you were talking about the gift of being misunderstood and the gift of having to teach people as a minority. Yeah.
I'm still not comfortable with it, because it's something that like has been like the most difficult part about my experience, like through my whole life, and especially in my coming out. Like I don't like feeling misunderstood. Mm-hmm. And I
don't think anybody does.
Well, yeah, it's horrible. And I just feel like it's so unfair that the person being hurt has to be the one that doesn't look angry or get mad. Mm-hmm. It's like so repetitively, in order for like change to happen, in order for like the other person to gain the understanding they need in order for that love to connect. Like the person who's not receiving love has to still give the love. Mm-hmm. And like, it's always felt so unfair. And so just like that reframe of being misunderstood can be a gift, and giving love even when you're not receiving it. Mm-hmm. It just like, I'm seeing it in a different way right now, as in like, if the purpose of my life is to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, then how beautiful that in this earthly experience, I get to learn that aspect of his experience.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is like, when someone loves you wrong, you want to ask yourself, how do I love this person right? And that takes...
It's love your enemies.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I think maybe that's what it is, because like obviously like love your enemies. Like I read the Sermon on the Mount all the time, but like sometimes it like actually hits, and I'm just like, this is profound. This is spiritual. This is eternal. And it's still really hard. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's so much emotion there in loving someone who's not loving you. Mm-hmm. It takes effort.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a part of that is loving them the way you would have wanted to be loved in that situation. And for me, I do have that perspective. Like I'm able to look back at, being in high school and me not being loving, but, and I'm not trying to like excuse my actions, but most of the time I was just met with really strong resistance. Mm-hmm. People saying like, wow, like so you don't love like gay people. And like that for me like was a disconnect because I didn't see how I didn't love people in the LGBTQ community. But if I don't know, like thinking back, I know something that would have helped me grow is if I had been in a situation where I was able to feel loved where I was at and supported as I learned more about the community. And I don't know if like I felt like even though my opinions and frame of mind might not have been like right yet, you know, that people were willing to support me while I was getting there. And like that's, I don't know, think about that. That's what I want to give people now. You know, as people are at their own place of like accepting people in the community or accepting themselves, you know, I want to give them love and space while they learn to grow.
Yeah, I love that. You brought up the Sermon on the Mount. I was actually thinking about, I've been thinking about this because we planned this episode a few weeks ago, so I've been thinking about it, and I thought about the Sermon on the Mount, like that is where the answer to this question comes from. Like when someone is hurtful to us, like blessed are the peacemakers, you know, love your enemies. And then there's a part in there that I thought was just like so instructive of like how we actually do that. And it says something like if your brother says something against you, like go between him and thee alone. And this idea of like this one-on-one interaction with people to teach them how to love and to teach them how to see us. And I think that can be hard because sometimes we just want to like I just want to hold people accountable. Like if you said this thing,
that's what I'm thinking.
Like I want to put you on blast. Like I want to screenshot this message and post it on my story, and so everyone can tell
so
me
that you learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And can see how, and so you can see all the ways you're loved and hid.
Right, but how would that person react?
Yeah.
Like when they're put on blast, like if you were put on blast or something that you said, if it was like out of a place of like you thought you were being nice,
right?
Like, you thought you were maybe just joking or even like offering like constructive help to a friend, and then they put you on blast.
Well, that's when Charlie Bird enters his reputation era, right? That's when we're going in. But yeah, like that's not helpful. And I feel like what it does is like increase the polarization in the space. It categorizes people. Like you are friend, you are enemy. And I feel like, oh.
Can I say about an experience I had that was very similar? I have a good friend, like very good friend who I trust and love, who loves me and sees me. And he said something that like I thought was like really...
Wait, is this one about me?
This one's not about you. I don't want to say who it is because he listens to the podcast, but so you might figure out that it's him. But it's okay if he knows. But he said something that was like really jarring to me, and it just like really upset me. And in the moment, I like didn't know what to do. And then like days passed, and I was like, I want to bring this up because it's like still unsettling to me. But I was like, how do I bring this up? And so finally, we were talking, and I just said, "You said this thing last week. Could you just help me understand what you meant?" And he immediately said, "Oh, I am so sorry. I said that so wrong." And then like immediately, like I felt better about it. We were really in the same place, and I'd been like stewing about this for days. And all I had to say was, "Can you help me understand what you were saying here?" And that was it. And then we were fine. And for days I'd been thinking, how do I help him see X, Y, and Z? Like, how do I help him understand this? But I didn't have to. I just had to say, help me understand what you were saying. And we got to where we needed to be, or where I thought we should be, without me having to like call him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure you have the energy to do that? Because I feel like sometimes when I am being actively misunderstood and I'm not like feeling love, I don't necessarily always have the patience or the energy to like put that extra effort in to offer grace, you know?
Yeah, there's a woman I've spent far too much time talking to on Facebook. I've never met her. And she has told me multiple times, like, Ben, if you just repent and trust in the Savior, like, he'll change you and blah, blah, blah. Marriage is so beautiful. Like a lot. It's happened a lot. And finally I was like, hey, why don't we like meet up? I'll give you a copy of my book. We can chat. And she said, I don't want you to read your book because I know I wouldn't feel the Spirit. And as soon as she said that, I was like, you know what? She has no interest in learning, so I'm done with this conversation now. And she still messages me sometimes, and I just say, thank you for your kindness. You know, like but like, you know, one thing my parents would say, and they were both teachers for a long time, they would say, you can't teach someone who doesn't want to be taught. And there's a time when someone's not going to be ready to learn. And we don't need to put our energy into that, but we do need to try and love that person right. But that doesn't mean that we have to just talk to a wall.
Or continually put yourself in a space where you're not being loved.
Yeah.
Like, I guess like my first thought when I was even like voicing this was I have so many people who give me the right kind of love, and that like fills that cup, you know?
Yeah. And like the privilege that we have of getting the right kind of love all the time
For sure.
helps us deal with the being loved wrong. But the being loved wrong is still hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even with that, I still just want to reach out to them because, you know, the world's not going to change if we like stay in our bubble where we're comfortable. You know, it's not always I don't know. My mission president would say something like, there's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. And so I think that's true for us as we're trying to learn how to love other people and like understand how they're trying to love us. And that's true for others as they're, you know, trying to figure out how to show love to everyone around them. Like you might have to break out of that comfort zone, but it's important to try to remember where each of you are at when you're having those conversations and, you know, like let them learn where they are without expecting perfection right away.
Definitely. You know, as you're talking, I feel like we're saying like there are a lot of negative comments from like people who don't understand the LGBTQ space, and the inverse happens as well, or the opposite, or I don't. People can be unkind from all kinds of spheres.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
And you know, after the blog post I wrote about or the episode about Mark, where I talked about like you coming to visit me in my office and all that, whatnot. Someone who I don't know sent me this like long message on Instagram, and she was like, "I used to believe in the church. I don't believe it anymore. Here's why it's not true. God didn't send Charlie to you. He's just your friend. Like God isn't real. Blah blah blah." So
Thanks.
So I read this message, and I was like, so I just like messaged her back. I was like, "Thank you for taking the time to listen to the episode." And I can tell what you're saying comes from a place of kindness. That's all I said. And then she wrote back, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you responded. Thank you so much. It was just a bunch of ramblings." And I was like, "Well, it was incredibly invalidating." And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just dealing with my own stuff and I put it on you."
Wow.
And, you know, reading that message was not fun. But really, you know, I was honored that she took the time to hear my story. And then I could tell that she was really trying to be helpful, even though it wasn't. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't have to message that woman all day long.
Right.
Like, that's not going to be helpful for me.
Right.
Jessica, when someone says something to you that is unkind, how do you, like, try and see things from their perspective?
I think, just remembering that everyone says things for a reason. You know, maybe they're hurting in their life, or maybe they just are trying to show love. Maybe they value love a lot and they show it differently. You know, maybe they value a sense of justice. And when you learn why someone believes the way that they do, it can be easier to understand why they said that and like where they were coming from. And if, you know, there is room for growth for both of you, like kind of the angle you can come at it from.
Yeah. Just really trying to understand, like, what is this person's values? How do those values influence what they're saying? Yeah.
You know, like someone coming from an attitude of love might act really protective of their kids and want to like keep them away from anything that they believe would harm them. That's a parent acting out of love, and like it's hard to argue with that. But you know, so one way to go around that is like reminding the parent of times that they've seen diversity in their lives, and maybe times that they've seen love. Like maybe it can even come in simple examples, like, you know, when you see a bed of flowers, if it was all about it, like if it was all the same colored tulip, well, it is really cool. If there were a lot of different colors of tulips, it'd be even more amazing. And so teaching her to love like that sense of diversity and teach your kids to love that way too.
Yeah, I love that. So Jessica, you're not very old. You're talking about like in high school, and high school wasn't that long ago for you. You've had a lot of growth and not a lot of time. If you could like hang out with 17-year-old you, what would you like say to her? Like, what would you want her to know when she was like saying things that were unintentionally dismissive?
I feel like I kind of wouldn't listen to myself. Because one of the things I was acting out of was the idea of I need to be a strong disciple of Christ. I need to be unyielding and unbending. And so like people are going to try to knock me down, but I need to be okay with being different. Like in a way I viewed being like guarded against the LGBTQ community, like as a way of me being a stronger disciple. That was a way of me keeping my beliefs safe and anything that could harm it out. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'd listen to myself. If I said, "No, don't worry. It's an act of love. This is good for you." I think I would have been like, "You're trying to tempt me out of my comfort zone."
Yeah. And I think that's really like a profound and honest like expression of your younger you, that there really isn't anything you could have said. What really changed it was your proximity.
Proximity and time. Well, and maybe not even a lot of time. I can't really count the years of the adding up process. I'm sure the years of my mission, talking with my friend helped, but I mean, a lot of the proximity came in a short time. Like when it came to the podcast, there were just so many different people that I couldn't deny it anymore.
So it's like quantity and quality of proximity.
Maybe. And, I don't want to say that because I don't want to like leave it at that, just because there are probably some people who feel like close to their parents, yet like don't understand why their parents don't get them.
Yeah. I wrote a book, as you know.
I'm not going to read it because I will not feel the spirit.
You might not. But one of the chapters I really like the title. It's called "The Cloud of Witnesses," and it comes from in Hebrews 11, I think it is. There are all these examples of faith. Like this person had faith, and this person had faith, this person had faith. And then the first verse in the next chapter says, seeing that we have such a great cloud of witnesses, I don't remember the next thing, but like, how can we deny that this is true? And you just like were enveloped by a cloud of witnesses, and you just couldn't deny it anymore. And, I think that's the really beautiful thing. Like when those of us who feel marginalized, who are treated unkindly, when we just become this cloud of witnesses, people are going to see our lives and our faith and our experiences. And it's going to be something that eventually will be undeniable.
Yeah.
And I think to do that, like the Spirit testifies of truth, right? And when we're acting as disciples of Christ, that's when the Spirit's going to be strong. And so if we're responding to some of this, this hurt or harm in a way that is like mature and Christ-like, then that cloud becomes thicker, I guess.
A big fog.
Big fog.
A fog of faithfulness. Yeah. So, as I'm thinking about like what I want my takeaway from this episode to be, like the next time someone's unkind to me, I want to ask myself, how can I love you?
Or even like, why would they say that? But like not in like why? But like where are they coming from?
Yeah. And then honestly, that just like pulls back into building Zion and understanding minds and hearts, and like making sure that we are not pulling away from each other, but staying in that sometimes messy middle in order to find like the healing, the understanding.
So as I think about like, okay, I want to love people who are unkind to me. I want to love my enemies. I want to be a peacemaker. I want to do good to them that use me and hate me and despitefully use me, or whatever all the lines are in the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, yada yada.
Whatever. Yada yada, the words of Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so sorry. I don't have the Sermon on the Mount memorized. Maybe I should. That should be my next project. Anyway, we got off on a tangent. So when I am thinking about how people are unkind to me, I'm thinking, okay, I want to love them. How do I make sure that I'm not in a place where I'm being hurt or damaged, or a place that's unsafe?
Like staying in an unsafe or abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that too.
I think one thing is to think about like what you already know about the person. For one, like, are they, if it's someone in your family, now people in your family can, sometimes be those toxic relationships that you need space from. But think about, I don't know. I think it does come back to thinking about where they're coming from. Like if they're coming from a place of love, then change is possible. But if they're like saying what they're saying out of a, trying to keep you trapped or trying to,
If there's like a selfish motive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to take a step away from a relationship if that's an actively unhealthy relationship. Like we can love people and forgive them without allowing them into our lives.
Yeah. And I guess that comes down to like personal judgment and honestly like your own bandwidth. And I mean, I would even like open that to prayer too.
Yeah.
Like use revelation on which relationships to build out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And reach out for help too. Like if you are in like an abusive or really difficult stuck situation, like, I mean, there's like suicide hotlines and therapy, and like there's other people you can get like a core group of support from, that really can like fill that cup if that's like not something you can get away from at the moment. So
yeah, and then just trusting your gut that you're going to know what to do.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, this has been like such an amazing conversation. I have loved having you as a guest and getting to know you. And I'm so impressed by you, your piccolo playing and everything. But just like, thank you for sharing like the goodness in your heart and opening my eyes to something I needed to hear.
Yeah. And one thing I said to Charlie before we started recording was, I always talk about giving people grace and time to grow. And you're like the personification of that.
Yeah. You're truly amazing.
I had to learn it the hard way. Like, I had to learn with experience from being a person that I don't think gave a lot of grace. And, learning that that's something that I needed in life. And so now I want to give it to others.
Ben, are you catching this? We were just like, you have so much grace. And she's like, I'm going to show you more. Amazing. I love you. You're incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have enjoyed this or other episodes, please consider leaving a review, following us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Questions from the Closet, or sharing this podcast with someone you love. And as always, please remember that we do not represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Brigham Young University. We're not trying to be prescriptive or tell anyone what to think or what to do.
You heard 3 perspectives, and there are many, many more. We encourage you to listen to other voices and hear a wide variety of experiences. If you would like to submit a question or share a comment about today's episode, you can email us at questionsfromthecloset@gmail.com.
Until next time.